Hi everyone, and welcome to this review of Mass Effect Andromeda. Um, if you've seen one of my reviews in the past, you know that I start by giving the score and then justifying it. Uh, Basically, I do the exact opposite of most reviewers out there. So, after playing the game, I've just finished it, and took me roughly 80 hours, give or take. And I I have no choice but to give it a solid 7 out of 10. Uh, However, it's a deeply flawed game, and despite that, I still think it earns a 7 out of 10. Out of 10. So let's start. I'm not going to show a lot of gameplay because this is not how I do things. Usually, I just talk to the camera and that's it. But no camera this time. Having some camera problems, and let's face it, I'm not presentable right now. Sorry about the sound quality. I'm using my headset, and I know that the sound is kind of shitty, but hey, better that than nothing. All right, so let's see. Um, the first thing that has to be said about the game is obviously addressing all the facial animations and general animations, not combat animations, but general animations, and they are simply abominable. They're horrible. They're horrendous. Uh, for anyone just trying the game out, for example, the people who tried the game in early access, they had 10 hours to play. That gave a really bad first impression of the game, and I had the same first impression. I wasn't impressed. Uh, I was a bit reluctant to keep on going, especially since the story didn't really have time to get going. Of course, it starts rather rough, but that's normal considering what the game was going for. After all, you're basically colonists exploring a new galaxy and just waking up to explore that galaxy. And ever since the game had been announced, it was obvious that something bad was going to happen since the Pathfinder is your father, and you have a choice between the brother or the sister. So, yeah, it was obvious that something was gonna happen. So no spoilers here. Um, and it was basically discovering what was going to happen. So yeah, animations horrible. Uh, some of them can be patched, and I hope they'll be patched. It's just bad. There are many videos out there that show the problems with animations, but yeah, facial animations are really bad, especially with the eyes. The eyes are just too wide open. They keep darting left and right. The kind of thing you would see from someone who doesn't want to be there and just wants to escape the situation or just finish the conversation as fast as possible. But you see that happening with pretty much everyone. Aliens fare much better. The Asari, not as much since they look so much like humans, but the Turians are just fine. The Krogans just fine. But yeah, the humans in Asari, very iffy as far as facial animations go. There are a lot of glitches. Once again, most of them are visual. For example, you're in a conversation and you see NPCs popping up and just disappearing randomly in the background. I remember once you're talking to an NPC and someone is lying down behind him, and you see that NPC just sort of jumping up and down, but he's lying down. So, you see those things very often, and it's alarming, really. Uh, it's obvious that the game needed at least 3 months of polishing, at the very least. But as far as facial animations go, they should have started from from scratch. They're bad. They're that bad. Still, despite that, still give it a 7. So I know, it doesn't it doesn't mesh. It doesn't feel right. But the story I found was very interesting, and despite several problems in dialogue throughout the game, most of the problems are at the beginning. Once again, really bad first impression. It gets better. It gets much better once you get into the story. And once you meet better characters like Drac, the Krogan party member, he's awesome. He's bloody awesome. He's the character that reminds me the most of the first trilogy. Because this game, although the developers didn't didn't really want to hint at this game starting a new trilogy, then it definitely feels like it's going to be a trilogy, or at least 2 games at the very least, or that was the plan. Because there are plenty of mysteries left at the end of the game, and there's most definitely a lot of space for further discoveries and solving different mysteries. Um, the enemy, the cat. Once again, I'm not spoiling anything. Have been plenty of videos showing them from EA even before the game was released. The cat are the enemy, and I would look at them sort of as like the Reapers. They're not like the Get, because in Mass Effect 1, the enemy were the Get, but that changed later on. Here, I get a feeling that the Cat are supposed to be the Reapers, and we should fight them in the next game if it ever gets made. You never know, because this game has had a really, really bad reception, and not really undeservedly so, because there are so many problems in the game. So yeah, the story very fun, and there was a lot of busybodying. Is that a word? There are a lot of side quests, but a lot of them are a lot of fun. You discover a lot of things about the worlds you explore. I think this is the most important thing in the game is the exploration. I love exploring, and this game offers a lot of that, and fun exploration even. There are some puzzles in the game, Sudoku-like. So people who have never tried Sudoku will likely find that a bit difficult to get used to, while people who have had experience with Sudoku will likely find them easy. Some of them were more difficult, but overall pretty easy. Let's see. Music, good. Not as good as the first trilogy, but still good. So I can't really complain about the music. It did its job. Let's see. So yeah, animations really bad, music good, story good, character interactions overall good, but there were some hit or misses. Um, if you take, let's see, inventory skills. There we go. So once again, I'm not spoiling anything since these characters were already introduced by EA before the game was released. So you have your characters, your party members. Korra. Uh, Korra is the biotic, is really serious, by the book sort of character. I didn't really have anything against her, but she left me rather neutral. You know, I think that her missions were nice and helped develop her character enough that hey, I I didn't have anything against her. But she's one of those characters that is a hit or miss. Jaal. Jaal, I really like. Uh, First of all, he's from a different race, so you have a lot of things to discover about that race and in him directly, and he has a lot of good character development. Um, as far as animations go, though, there are some problems with his the flaps of his uniform will often tend to clip through his body, so that's a bit annoying. But that's a character design flaw. Uh, it's BioWare's fault for that one. Still, very I enjoyed discovering about him tremendously. He's a really fun character. Vetra is a Turian in your party. Also, an interesting dynamic with that character. Since I was playing the male writer, she was one of the romance options, like Korra as well. But Korra, I did not try to advance the romance with Korra since she reminds me of my sister, and that would have been weird. So yeah, kind of forgot about Korra for this playthrough. Vetra, really interesting personality. Of course, visually, can't say that she's attractive. She's a Turian. But I went after her and I completed the romance with her. It was interesting. Not awesome, but interesting. Enough for me to not regret romancing her. Drac is the best part about this game. He's the Krogan. He's like an elderly Krogan. Uh, and he's awesome. From beginning to end, he's awesome. And all the banter related to him is also awesome. Um, I remember once you're exploring in your vehicle and you have the opportunity to sort of make crazy jumps, and he comments about it. And his comments are awesome. And at some point, he's like, "Yes!" At some point, you even go even further and go in the realm of insane jumping, and he goes like, "Shit!" That was just awesome. In fact, I think it's the only time in the game I heard someone swear. But yeah, it was well deserved and it was awesome. But yeah, great personality. Reminds me a lot of the characters in the Mass Effect trilogy. Uh, I I hope they make us another game so I can interact with him more. He's just that awesome. BB, another hit or miss character. Um, I liked her at first, but she did some things that were really, really annoying. So I also romanced her and also succeeded. And this is a problem in the game, by the way. Not the fact that you can romance several characters. That's just fine. I James T. Kirk that game up like crazy. I also romanced two other characters, and one to completion, and another one, well, maybe it opens up later on or in a different game. We'll see. But the problem I have with romances is that they don't seem to interact with one another. As I said, I romanced Vetra to completion and PB to completion. And by the way, the PB romance leads to rather revealing um, uh, scene where you tits and ass. You see plenty of stuff. While Vetra, probably because she's not a human like character, you just see the beginning and that's it. While PB has a couple of scenes. The first one is the fade to black kind, while the second one is more revealing. Um, I suppose that if you're a female writer and you romance, for example, Liam, you get a similar scene. I haven't done it, so I can't confirm or not, but there's probably a very revealing scene with him as well, since he's human. With Joel, I think he's a possible love interest if you're female, so it's probably the same as Vitra, since he has a different type of model, but once again, can't confirm. So yeah, Liam is the final member in the party, and that guy annoyed me to no end. He's a fucking idiot. Uh, some people might like that, but to me, it was just grating. Always had to solve the problems that he started. God damn it, I pissed me off. But hey, some people might like that. So if you do, well, more power to you. But yeah, that was the guy who annoyed me the most in the party. Um, Now, combat is very fluid. Uh, it's more action oriented than in the first trilogy. I liked it overall. However, there are a couple of changes from the first trilogy that didn't really I didn't like. For example, cover is is not the sticky cover like they had in the first trilogy, but it's more dynamic, which in theory is fine, but there are some problems with it. Um, Very often in the game, I would approach a cover and then randomly get out of the cover without getting hit. Um, it depended on where I was, but yeah, it's something that happens sometimes and put me in serious trouble. So that was a problem. Oh yeah, before I forget, this is the PC version. So yeah, everything I'm going to say relates to the PC version. Might be different for the consoles, and I hope it's different. Uh, because there are several problems related to this version as well. So yeah, um, aside from that, also when you use cover, sometimes for some reason your character gets stuck facing one way. I don't know how that works. Maybe there's a button to change that. I'm not sure. But if there was, it wasn't explained in the tutorials. Um, Basically, you approach a piece of cover and you more or less stick behind it. Was As I said, it's not like the sticky cover in the first game. But let's say you're facing right, and logically you should be facing left because the edge of the cover is on your left. You know, you peek uh, towards the side of the cover to shoot or over it. That's just logical. But no, you're facing right, and you can't change that. So if you try to attack enemies that are on the left, you will get out of cover, which is dumb. So yeah, that's another problem, but that can be patched, I suppose. I hope so, because that is a problem that also affects multiplayer. But it was very apparent in the single player. Uh, Aside from that, yeah, I mentioned in my first impressions video, uh, you can't grab enemies over cover and kill them. That's something that I find they dubbed down the game in a way, and that's disappointing. Um, so yeah, as far as combat goes, all things considered, it's pretty equal to Mass Effect 3. You have the added versatility of versatility, yeah, of jumping with your jumping pack, and that adds a lot of gameplay. But it's not perfect. Nothing is, after all, um, and can cause some problems here or there. But overall, it's a nice addition. So I'm grateful for them to add that. Especially since it gives them the opportunity to add a lot of jumping puzzles and stuff like that. And they're not as annoying as in Dragon Age Inquisition. Um, as far as the environment goes, the game has problems similar to Dragon Age Inquisition. Sometimes the ground is too cluttered and you can't get stuck in there. However, this game has the jumping pack, so you can avoid those hindrances by just jumping over them. So it's not as much of a problem as in Dragon Age Inquisition, for which I gave a 6 out of 10, by the way, if you haven't seen my review. And I said that it could have been an 8 if they solved all the issues. This game is similar in a way, since if they solve all the visual and gameplay issues, it could be a 9, despite sometimes the dialogue being iffy, because the story was fun. The story was fun, and exploration was a lot of fun as well. Let's see. I've completed roughly 95% of the single player content, if not more, but around that. So you can expect getting around 80 hours of gameplay from the game just from single player if you do everything. And you can get a lot of mileage as well from the multiplayer, although the multiplayer has some problems. Um, so usually when I score a game, I look at how much money you spend compared to how much gameplay you get out of it. So usually if you can get 1 hour of gameplay for each dollar you spend or more, then you're on the right track. And hey, I've already played. I am already under the $1 threshold per hour, so that's good for me. That's more than enough for me. Might not be for you, but that's kind of how I judge games. So the more I play and I still enjoy the experience, the better the score. It's just plain logical. You know, you spend money, you expect to have something in return, and I got it. That's what I got from it. Some issues with the game, however. Oh yeah, this is important. Customization. Customization is fun as far as the powers your character has. Of course, facial customization, very iffy, since it tends to give weird results in the game itself. You might think your character is fine. For example, here he looks fine. But when he's talking and everything, and the eyes bulging and everything, yeah, leaves something to be desired. Um, I think that it's not as bad with the regular writer that they provide for the game, at least the male writer. But there are still some issues regarding facial animations. For the female writer, it's just god awful. But anyway, yeah, there's a lot of customization you can do. You can pick and choose any power. You're basically like a wild card, while your party members have their own set of powers. So yeah, you can mix and match. You can have some fun. I enjoyed using the Vanguard type of character. A lot of fun, and probably the best one to use in higher difficulties of the game. So yeah, you have the combat skills, you have the biting skills, and the tech skills. Um, so I mostly, well, I use the passives a lot, but yeah, I'm mostly biotic. Well, combat includes the weapons, so yeah. So you can do pretty much anything you want with your character. So yeah, that's a very good point for the game. Uh, you don't, you're not limited like in the first trilogy. So that's good. That's very, very good. So one of the issues is the galaxy map. Let's take a look. Now, I'm in the cluster for the first colony. And I'm going to show you something very simple, and you will understand why this could get annoying fast. When you visit a planet of any cluster, just to scan it, something happens. And let's check what it is. There. As you can see, there's sort of a cinematic loading screen just to get to that planet. And it's a pretty freaking long cinematic loading screen just to get to a planet that you're going to scan once. Boinks! And that's it. You're done with that planet. And most of the planets in the galaxy are like that. However, you're gonna have to see that same sort of cinematic loading screen all the time, and it gets really annoying real fast. So yeah, that is a huge problem, and that was a design flaw. I mean, come on, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out how that can become annoying, since you have a lot and a lot of planets to scan. And I didn't say explore, I said scan. As far as exploring planets, I don't really remember the exact number. It's around 6 or 7, something like that. And every planet is very different. That's why the exploration was so fun. It didn't feel like you were repeating the same thing over and over. So yeah, that helped make the different side quests interesting. However, let's see. Let's exit this. Whoop. Some side quests are annoying. There was one in particular that was that just would not end, and that pissed me off. You know, if you've played the first trilogy, maybe you remember the DLC, the Citadel DLC from Mass Effect 3, where you could organize a party for your characters. And there were plenty of missions to do before the party, but they were not fetch quests. And the party was a lot of fun. There is something similar in this game. I won't spoil what it is, but all the missions that lead to that payoff are fetch quests, and there are many of them, so it gets annoying real fast. And that's sad because the payoff is a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. It was not as complicated or as sophisticated as the party in the Citadel DLC, because it's not a DLC, it's part of the game. but it was fun. The fact that you had to jump through all those hoops to get there, however, was aggravating. So yeah. So let's see. Have I forgotten anything? Yeah. The main strengths of the game are the story and exploration. The weaknesses are the animations and sometimes dialogue, because your character is a jackass. You don't have um, the Paragon Renegade system as in the first trilogy. Now it's more along the lines of emotional response, logical response, that kind of thing, but it doesn't seem to have an effect on your character or the game, as far as I know. There might have an effect for the next game if they ever get to it, but as far as I know, it doesn't. So it's kind of there just to be there. It doesn't really affect anything. One thing that is good, however, is that you do have several very important decisions to make in the game that should, well, of course, that is if they make other games for the Andromeda series, that should affect deeply the galaxy. And I get a feeling that they would have more of an effect than your decisions did in the first trilogy. But that's just me. It might be just a wrong impression, but I'm hopeful for that. Um, so yeah, that was something very good for me. There was one decision in particular, of course, I'm not spoiling anything here, where I was torn. It was really my head going against my heart, and I went for my head, but I regretted it immediately. But I did not want to load my game to redo it, because you know I I tried to go with my character. Of course, romantically speaking, I was James T. Kirking it up, flirting with everyone, well, every alien at least. But as far as the rest of the game went, I tried to look at the bigger picture, and sometimes that could affect your decisions. So yeah, I'm really hoping that they'll continue this series. There's a lot of potential, and let's not forget that the first trilogy, the first Mass Effect was rough around the edges. And Mass Effect 2 is one of my favorite RPGs of all time. It's as close to a perfect game as I can think of. And Mass Effect 3 was a very good game, although the ending was disappointing, but was made better with the DLC later on. But yeah, I can see a lot of good things in the future of this particular series. Um, Hopefully something happens to my character, because as I said, he's a jackass, and that's not necessarily because of my choices. It's just the dialogue options tend to make him into a jackass, and I hear that the female writer is even worse. So yeah, they can definitely improve upon the protagonist, and I'm hoping that they do. Um, I I would love to have a Krogan protagonist. Really, really, because the Krogans are the best part of the Mass Effect series. Always fun to interact with. So that would be a nice surprise. Uh, I hope that they do something like that. And damn it, I want an L Core party member with twin Gatlings on his back, or even better, a freaking laser on its head. Because let's face it, Elcor are the best the best race in this series. The way that they speak, well, monotone, but at the same time including their emotion in front of what they say. I just love that. In fact, the best thing ever would be to have an Elcor romance option. That would be freaking awesome. Just imagine it. The flirting with an Elcor. Like, flirtatiously. Do you come here often? Shyly. Would you like to come to my room for a cup of coffee? That would be so freaking awesome! And I want to see the full version of Elcor Shakespeare. We've heard a little bit of it in Mass Effect 3, but I want it. I want it. Anyway. But yeah, love the story. Plenty of mysteries to solve. Most of them are solved by the end of the game, but it leaves the door open to a lot more. You get the feeling that there's something missing in the game, but no, that you're missing something. Um, as far as mysteries go here, not in gameplay or story. So it leaves you wanting for more, or at least it did for me. So yeah, definitely deserves a 7 because the story was so good. The ending, as I said, I just finished the game, so it's still fresh in my memory. The ending was good, slightly underwhelming, but good. So yeah, they avoid the Mass Effect 3 ending thing. However, I really enjoyed the epilogue, where you get a chance to speak to the characters around you. That was a lot of fun, and anyway, there are some references to the first trilogy, but they are few and far between. You have to dig to find them, but they're nice. And what I'm wondering is which of the endings from Mass Effect 3 is canon, because they don't really give a hint concerning that. Anyway, I get the feeling that there will probably be a Cerberus type of organization that you will have to contend with eventually. It's not clear. I'm just coming up with theories here. The cat will likely still be a very present danger in the next games. But then again, that could change. And let's see. In the game, you basically have 4 arcs. You have the human arc, the Salarian arc, the Asari arc, and the Turian arc. Now, they do talk about the Quarian arc, if you love Quarians, but they say right away, and that's not really a spoiler, they say right away that the Quarian arc had some problems at first, so they left later on. So that's still open for the next games. So there's still plenty of stuff to do, and I hope that they will make another game. And further on, I hope that they will give it to a different studio, because let's face it, the Montreal BioWare studio dropped the ball as far as facial animations go. And let's face it, when you're playing a game that is very story heavy, so there are a lot of character interactions, and the animations can take you out of it. They didn't for me, since I kind of approached the game as if watching The Room. The acting in The Room was so bad that it made you smile. It's similar for me for this. It's so bad it's good, but for all the wrong reasons. If that's something that can really annoy you, I can see that stopping you from playing the game further. Um, they might patch that later on. We'll see. So, all things considered, so 7 out of 10. Is the game worth your money? I would say yes. However, I don't want to encourage BioWare and EA for giving us a game that could have been and should have been much better. Uh, the presentation, at least. So I would say wait for it to be on sale and just jump on it. The game is fun. It is fun. Story is a lot of fun. Exploration is awesome. But there are so many issues. I mean, for example, uh, at one point I was in a battle and PB got killed. Of course, when a character gets killed, you have to resurrect them, basically. Revive them if you prefer. But some enemies have an execution attack, so when that happens, the character won't come back until the battle is over. And it was a weird bug because she died, and there was another enemy not far from there. But when I killed the first one, PB came back to life. However, her corpse was still there, so she was running around with me, but her corpse was on the map. And even when I left the planet and came back, the corpse was still there. It was weird. And I've seen videos of people uh, doubling NPCs. Like I saw Korra twice, I saw Drac twice. I saw someone who had PB be dead forever for some reason, and not through the story. I mean through a fight. So there are so many bugs, so many bugs. This game deserves at least 2 or 3 major patches to at least try and solve the huge issues. Um, I remember falling through the world once. Let's see, what other problems did I encounter? Um, oh yeah, there was one quest that I could not finish. Was to find plants because the plants would not spawn. No matter how much I would advance the story, or how I would improve the condition of the plants would not show up in several spots. Uh, in some instances, I would revisit the place eventually, and there they were. But some other times they would never show up. So yeah, lots of issues, lots of issues. So you might want to wait a little bit before you give this game your money, even if you don't plan on waiting for it to go on sale. Uh, Give it the time for them to patch the game once or twice at least. But yeah, mm, in a way, I would say that this game is a missed opportunity. It could have been so much better. Um, if they had better animations and more polishing, this would approach Mass Effect 2 territory for me. But no. Still, 7 out of 10 for me is a pretty good game. Well over 80 hours of gameplay worth, and that's not even looking at multiplayer. I'm still playing Mass Effect 3 multiplayer, so yeah, that was worth my money as well. Um, anyway, since the multiplayer is co-op horde mode, I know that there are plenty of people who only love PvP, so that will piss them off, like most likely. I saw a video with Angry Joe. Who would play a horde mode? No, stupid fucking moron. I like Angry Joe, but god damn it, when he talks about FPS games, he's such a fucking idiot. Anyway, sorry, that was my opinion. That came out rather strong, didn't it? But yeah, you might enjoy the multiplayer aspect, you might not, but either way, the single player campaign is a lot of fun. So yeah, I recommend the game, but you might want to wait a little bit to get it, or a lowering in price. Anyway, I don't think I forgot anything, so I guess that will be it for now. I hope this this review was helpful to you, and will help you decide whether or not you get the game, or when you get the game. I'm going back to the game and play some multiplayer, although, you know, I've been playing this game non-stop, so I might go back to Europa Universalis 4 for a little bit, just to wait until Persona 5 comes out, which will likely be a 9 out of 10 for me, unless they somehow drop the ball, but from what I've seen, it's all good. So yeah, I will do a review for that game as well. Anyway, hope you had fun, hope that was interesting, and I will see you next time.